This is Unscripted at 40, Episode 4, The Power of Speaking Up, Even When It Costs You. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Unscripted at 40. I'm your host, Wen, and today we're getting real about something that many of us know too well. The moment when speaking your truth feels like both freedom and loss. Because the truth is, growth will eventually ask you to open your mouth. It will ask you to say that thing, to set that boundary, to advocate for yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. It may even cost you things that you thought you needed. This episode is brought to you by my digital shop, Wen Designs, where creativity meets intention. If you're on your own journey of growth, healing, or stepping into your next chapter, I've created a collection of beautifully designed digital tools to support you. From printable manifestation journals and self-love toolkits to Lux, wall art, and Canva templates for creators. Each piece is designed with love, intention, and just a little bit of magic. You can check it out at Wen Designs online on Etsy or click the link in the show notes, because whether you're manifesting your dream life or just planning your week, you deserve tools that feel as elevated as you are. So for me, one of the biggest pivots of my life came after I spoke up about something that didn't sit right with me in my work environment. And deep down, I obviously knew it would be easier just to stay silent, to just play it safe and blend in, lay low kind of thing. Do my job, keep my head down, do the day-to-day thing. But the cost of my silence had just grown too high. And so when I finally spoke up, the fallout was definitely real. It felt like doors closed, opportunities suddenly disappeared, and relationships shifted. And for the longest time, I really thought, did I ruin everything? Did I ruin a good opportunity with a good company? And it took me a while. I dwelled on that for a while. And even as time went on, and I knew deep down that things had happened this way for a reason. I didn't necessarily know the reason or have the answers, but I just knew that had I chose to stay quiet and just be complacent in what I was doing, I would have been miserable. Sure, was it would have been easy money, easy just logging in. I could do, I knew the job like the back of my hand at this point. I could log in and just do what I needed to do and go about my life like that. And it was certainly something that would cross my mind. Like you might have messed up a good thing, like it was, who gets that chance to just log in and, kind of coast through the day. But, in that time set, it just felt like I was not being challenged. It just felt like I was settling, things were complacent. And I didn't like that feeling. I've never liked that feeling of complacency. I do like getting to a point where I'm comfortable for a little bit, but then, I have that it's like an urge that creeps up and kind of drives me to seek out a challenge or some way I can grow. And so I had really felt good about this job I was in, this company I was working for. I had worked really hard to get there. And, to prove myself, I learned so much while I was there. I was just really grateful for the opportunity. And after, I'd been there for a few years at that point and moved around to different roles and kind of opened doors and kind of showed where my skill set was. And I was given opportunities to carve out these roles that weren't in place yet, but upper management, they saw my value and were very encouraging. And the company itself was very much big on career development, coaching, and growth, which I was all about. I love that about it. But in probably after the 5th or 6th year I had been with the company, I was moved to a team that I really wasn't familiar with. And it just felt like I was being kind of passed off because I kept getting transferred to these different teams because my line of work was a little bit unique in itself, and the team didn't know exactly where it belonged. And in my mind, I thought, well, maybe this is a good transitioning point. Maybe this is a sign that it's just time to pivot, because I felt like I had reached that point where I knew the job like the back of my hand. I could do this with my eyes closed, spread out my work throughout the day and kind of just coast through. And so I felt like it was maybe some time to vocalize these things a little bit more. And I also felt like I was really not seen. And not that I needed attention or praise or anything of that sort, but we all know that if we aren't seen or we aren't noticed as much in the corporate world, that can really impact, performance reviews or dictate, kind of raises or, things like that, your compensation. And at that point, it really had that effect on me. And I was coming up on almost 2 years without any type of salary increase. And I knew I was being underpaid. And I don't want to get into anything, outside of kind of this situation, because I do know that there was probably other factors that were at play here. And like I said, I really want to just keep this about my experience as, kind of how this growth came about, because yes, we can go down all kinds of different paths, like, the discrimination factors and things like that. But let's just stick to this. So at this point, I knew that I was being underpaid for the role I was doing. And I did something I had never really done before. I really spoke up. I went to CHR about it at this point because I kept asking my supervisor about it, and I kept getting, and 6 months went by of me asking about kind of, I feel like I want to challenge this last performance review. I don't feel like this is fair. I don't feel like my work has been highlighted appropriately. And thankfully that worked out in my favor, and I got the raise I deserved. And so, I continued on, and then as things kind of progressed again, I realized I just wasn't being challenged. And when I was once again moved to a new team, I felt like, hey, maybe this is my time to shine. Let me speak up. Let me kind of put myself out there and see how I can transition better into this team and step away from the work that I'm doing, because it really didn't require so much of me at that point, since I had set up things to pretty much be on autopilot. And so, I vocalized some things. I got a little pushback. It was just very odd. And so this time I was like, no, absolutely not. I am so fed up with being pushed around and told that, this, and this, and then nothing happens. I thought we were about, career development and coaching. And so, of course, I don't know, maybe it was my delivery. I didn't, I wasn't disrespectful. I wasn't out of line in any way. I just was a little bit more firm than I probably had ever been in the course of my career. Even when I was, approaching HR about my, performance review, my raise, I kept my composure. I'm a very emotional being. So, and it just, next thing you know, I'm being told, okay, yeah, sure. We're going to look to see where we can move your work to. And then after kind of this, I don't want to call it a confrontation, but me kind of just, standing firm about, I feel like I have been given the runaround too much. I want to, move into a different role, into different, challenges. Why am I not getting coached as, on my previous teams and my initial role with the company, I had been given different coaching plans and things like that. And so next conversation was about, well, now that we've, now that we're working on moving your role to another team, that means that you will be out of work. And so we are trying to come up with an end date for you, because mind you, we were in the middle of a big integration project, which required my expertise on some of the software and systems that I was in charge of running. So as you know, they of course needed me until that was done, or they probably didn't realize that until someone pumped the brakes and said, well, you got to wait until we're done with this integration before you guys let her go, because we need her help on this project. So it pretty much extended out to almost 2 months that my job would end, and they said, you can find something internally, or you will just be let go. So yeah, I was like, all right, that's fine. A couple other things happened I don't want to get into, but my point is, I really had to make a decision that I could just sit there and like just continue on and do this work that I knew how to do with my eyes closed, and just, coast through the day, which I had done for quite some time. So I don't want to say that I just did it for a month or two and then felt like I was better than that. No, I let it go for a while. And it just got to a point, though, that it was just not like fun. It just wasn't something I was interested in doing, because regardless, at the end of the day, I still had to log in and be logged in. And it did impact my performance and because what do I have to show if I'm doing the same things over and over, things that I can get done in, half a work day, that I just have to force myself to spread out to make it look like I'm busy. That is not going to be grounds for, any kind of good performance review or increase. So I knew what I had to do. I knew I had to speak up to kind of get out of that little hole I had dug myself into. And so when I did, maybe my approach was not right, or maybe, I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like there was more to it, not so much on my end, but not something I necessarily wanted to go down or prove, or probably could even. So yeah, I let that go. And I will say that for a while after, because there was an opportunity for me to move to a different team internally, and funny enough, it just didn't work out, or it was not an approved move by upper management. So my time there came to an end, and, I walked away. I said, all right, well, obviously they did not see my value enough. And kind of my first phase of it was learning not to take it so personal, because I kind of did. And I tell you, I'm an emotional being, and that was a big part of it. I really was kind of feeling like, wow, they didn't see my worth. Oh, they're going to see it now. They're going to be struggling. And while that may have been the truth, it's not like they were going to reach out to me and say anything. It wasn't like they were going to reach out to me and beg me to come back. And so as I was kind of going through these emotions, it almost felt like I was grieving a relationship. And in fact, it was so parallel to the emotions from my recent divorce, or the process of my divorce, that it was just like I was going through them simultaneously. And it was a lot. It was a lot of feelings to sift through. It was a lot of things to work through at the very beginning. And I had to really talk to myself, because I did feel like, well, if you didn't say anything, if you would have just kept your mouth shut, you wouldn't be in this position. But then I also remembered that I have always been that person that's just been more like, well, let me just, lay low. Let me kind of keep my mouth shut and not say anything, and just be that good little worker bee that does what they need to do. And if, eventually somebody will notice. They'll notice the good work I do, and eventually I'll get the praise, or the promotion, or the salary increase. But I realized that was not the case. And my whole life I spent like that. My whole life, at least in the career realm, I did. I just really was one of those, I'm going to do my best, work my hardest, not complain, and they'll see. And really, no, they don't. They're a business, they're a corporation. They're going to be able to find someone to replace you in a heartbeat. So it's definitely not worth it, and it was kind of the beginning of an epiphany. Once I went through those motions and realized, wow, like that was really the end of it, the end of something I thought I was going to be in forever. And again, very parallel to what I was going through while I was healing from my divorce. I really did think this was going to be kind of a forever thing. I'm going to work until I retire here, work my way up, become some top exec, and all of that. I mean, I was well on the way to do that. And so in questioning if I had done the right thing or if maybe I just would have kept my mouth shut would have been better, I learned that no, because the same thing in my relationship, there were certain things that I just could not look past. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I feel like that was kind of the beginning stage of my growth, and really taking off into something that I had never done before. And so now I realize that at this point, it's been almost 2 years since that happened. And while I look back and say, okay, not saying things have been perfect since that, leaving that job, I feel as if I'm at a point, regardless of whatever's going on, that I know that just wasn't where I was meant to be. And it doesn't mean that I'm okay. It doesn't mean that I've accepted things. It doesn't mean that it makes it any better or any easier. It just means that's what that's just the truth. That's the reality. And I'm here now, and I don't really dwell or harbor on it like I used to in the beginning. And I do know that I didn't ruin things. I did not ruin anything for myself. I made a choice, and, I acted on that, and this is kind of the outcome of that, and it's okay. Like I've lived a really good life. I've, gone back and gotten my master's degree. I have been able to travel, spend time with friends and family, and just really kind of enjoy things, enjoy life. And I don't know anything about my old position, my old team. I don't know anything. People just kind of fell off after I was done, and that's okay. And that's okay too. It just wasn't something that was meant to move forward with me. And maybe it was something that I just wasn't, I was going to outgrow at some point. And that's okay too, because this has pushed me into the path of entrepreneurship, something I would have never done. The same thing with, finishing my master's degree. I would have never put so much emphasis on it and focus had I been working, had I been staying stuck at that, regular 9 to 5. So I say that to say it didn't ruin anything for me. It just moved me in a different direction. It revealed things. It revealed misalignments. It revealed truths about the people I worked with, or the systems, or the teams, the corporation, the environment. And then it revealed things about myself. And it was painful at times, but it was certainly necessary to bring me to this point where I'm at now. And the point I'm at now, I look back at that version of me, and that's, I'm proud to say that, she did what she needed to do. But this version of me now, I feel freer. I feel happier. I feel confident in myself. And I trust in myself and trust in what is going to be next for me. I know what's best for me. So if you're like me, and you were probably taught early on to just be easygoing, likable, a team player, all of that, But too often that message morphs into one that says, don't make waves, don't rock the boat, don't make people uncomfortable. But guess what? Keeping everyone else comfortable at the cost of your own integrity, that's just not peace. That's self-abandonment. And peace that requires your silence, that isn't peace at all. So here's the beautiful part no one talks about enough. When you speak your truth, you don't just lose things. You also gain things. You gain self-respect. You gain clarity. You gain energy you didn't even realize you were spending on just pretending. So when I spoke up, yes, I lost some stability in the short term, but I gained a deeper trust in myself. And that trust, it's priceless. It's what's carried me through every pivot since then. It's what's guiding me now. So today, if you're carrying words inside of you that feel heavy, if you're holding back your needs, your boundaries, your truth, consider this your permission slip. Speak, even if your voice shakes, even if it's messy, even if it changes the room, because your truth deserves space too. Thank you for spending a little part of your day with me. If this episode touched something inside you, if it reminded you of your own power, I would love if you'd share it with someone else who might need that reminder too. And don't forget, if you're looking for tools to support your growth, visit my Etsy shop, When Designs Online. So until next time, friends, stay grounded, stay true, and never ever apologize for using your voice. That's all for this episode. And remember, don't be afraid to go off script.